What's shaking? Snake River fly hanging out shop. It's kind of gloomy outside. Winter finally caught us, and so we've been kind of thinking about summer, last summer, dry flies, fun stuff. Anyway, bug we were working on last year, kind of a dry stimulator type deal, with the idea that your bug's too high. Talked to a guy on the river and he's like, "How you guys doing?" We're like, "Oh, we're moving a couple." He's like, "Your bug's too high." And I'm like, "Hi, how are you?" I was like, "Man." And I was like, "Oh, my bug's too high." So we agreed. A lot of times fishing stoneflies in the west, you know, in a lot of our rivers, Henry's Fork, South Fork, anywhere you're lucky enough to get some stoneflies, you also tend to get a lot of fishermen, and the fish get pretty savvy, you know, like whatever was last year's hot foam bug, by the end of last summer, you know, the fish start shying away from it. So anyway, do kind of a mopper, kind of a floater in the pool knockoff. Like a lot of Gorilla stuff is cool. It sets low. And if you've guided, you know, or fished a lot on during Stonefly Hatches, you definitely notice that some of those patterns by guys that are also guiding and spending a lot of time tend to be kind of a lower rider than, you know, your big heavy duty chubby cherbs, stuff like that. So this one, we've got a size 10 curve or bent shank SRF hook. Cool little bend in the middle, size 10, and got some Grizz Frizz here that we're working with. This is a new color. This one's got a little bit of other stuff in it too, but basically Grizz Frizz in a new color that's coming out with this bug. Don't know what we'll call it, and we're going to put that all the way underneath and come back to front. And that's going to be our wing eventually, but it also makes for a good floating core. So I'll bring it back a little bit, about where our wing's going to go there, just anchoring it in. Now I'm going to put some foam up here in the front, right about where I want my legs to be. Just tie this foam up like so. This is going to add to the floatability of the front of the fly. Back of the fly is going to set relatively low. And I'll just fold this back. Just doing this to build up kind of an abdomen, like so. And we're going to take some of our Barbed Elasticore in Sunburst Gold, I think. This stuff's really cool. Stretchy core, not a lot of tinsel, pretty short in length, 3/4 inch, 1/2 inch, but it doesn't take up a lot of room when you're tying it down because you can stretch it. So put that like so. We've got our little Grizz Frizz hanging out the back, couple rubber legs in there. Fall hopper or golden stone, I think, in the laser leg. And it's going to be a lot like a wet stimulator on the back end. Then the front end's going to have some floatability. So Barbed Elasticore. Tied that back half of the body, the low riding back half. And then I'll just leave it connected but fold it back, tie it off, and now we're going to put in a set of 3 legs in the same, I think this is golden stone. I tie them in just like a rubber leg nymph. Little X, you know, right in the, where that hook starts to curve right there, that bend in that bent shank. It's kind of a perfect spot to put that clump of legs, and that balances everything. Just do some X wraps and then come forward and just leave that there. Now, just like tying a rubber leg, we're just going to use our Barbed Elasticore to place our legs. Get some cool symmetry going. Pretty realistic on the bottom. This is going to set down in the water pretty low on that back end. And you can change, you know, how much floating you put on. That type of thing too, you know, or just mop it. This is when they really like them. Pretty simple, and you got a few moving parts out the front, but take your time. Cool thing about the stretchy core is, you know, I can stretch it and I can keep it pretty compact, but it gives that automatic segmentation, real buggy underbody. And like a lot of our stoneflies, will take advantage of a Sharpie. This guy's fighting me a touch, but we'll win. A Sharpie, and we'll do some dorsal coloring. We do that a lot on a stonefly nymph, which this works pretty good, by the way, for. Yeah, this kind of style of fly is becoming really popular in the one fly. Basically, we're tying a slender, neutrally weighted stonefly rubber leg nymph underneath there, and we're strapping foam to it. So, you know, later on in the day, if the sun comes out, you can change, basically cut all the floaties off. Take a brown Sharpie. We'll do that dorsal coloration, the brown. Elasticore is cool for that. Has a little bit of shine, a little bit of length. You can trim it, but it's not real sinky. That'll give us our dark on top, light on the bottom. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come back on top of this, like so. And I'm going to come in between my set of legs. I'm just going to go loose with my thread, reposition, pull that tight, right like so. Now we'll take that Grizz Frizz in the Nitro Lemming color, we're going to call it. I don't know why Brandon came up with Nitro Lemming. Sounds like a b-ball or badass fly, I guess, huh? Anyway, Grizz Frizz out the back like so. You can put a little bit more on there, I think, but for tutorial purposes. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to jump my thread from here up to here. Turn that vise so you can see it. Loose wrap, then pull tight. It's a good way to reposition. Now we'll take that foam, fold it over. This is going to make the head of our stonefly. And then once again, we'll sneak underneath the foam, jump our thread back to the middle, go loosey-goosey until we get around there, then pull that tension a bit, finish it up, a little tie on the top of the, top of the hoorah. Anyway, back to the story. My fly was too high that day on the river that dude told me that, man, your fly's too high. And since then, definitely, you know, tying a lot of stuff like this that you see out there is advantageous on, you know, waters that see a lot of flies, a lot of fishermen, a lot of good anglers, a lot of great fly patterns. But having a different one is always a good move during a popular hatch, and this is our latest and I don't know, latest and newest low rider. Have to come up with a cool name, sandal bottom blues or something cool. Anyway, then we'll take a little brown Sharpie since we already had it out, give them a little eyeball. This is a great move on any of your foam terrestrials. We just use UV wader repair or UV knot sense, whatever's handy. We got them piled all over here in the shop. You know, you can put a little on the legs. Like I said, going back to one fly, this style of bug, you know, I think definitely Sanchez and those guys over the hills, we call it, over in Jackson, they you know, probably definitely were doing the first convertibles I'd heard of in the early 2000s and stuff. But this is kind of a knockoff off of it. Like you see underneath, there's your rubber leg nymph strapped onto the top and over the front, and incorporated through the core as your other two materials. So it's pretty damn tough way to tie them as well. But anyway, we got this stuff out, multiple colors, all that kind of good jazz, and it's a lot of fun to play with. I'm sure a hopper's gonna follow. One of you guys are gonna do a hopper next. So, by the way, the Semper thread glows like a... So there you have it. Not too high a fly. Thanks for watching.